Welcome to the Firestarters video series. My name is Steve Scheier. I've worked in cannabis since 2018. I talk and write about power, and I offer leaders in cannabis leadership guidance and curated advisory boards. And coming soon, I'm going to be offering 12 select members of the cannabis CEO world the opportunity to participate in a cannabis CEO council. I'm also the co-author with my friend Michael Ashley of the book Power Up, Essential Tools for Cannabis Business Leaders, which is available on Amazon. So thank you very much for being here with us today. My first guest, or my guest today, is Brooke Westlake. Brooke is the founder and owner of Women's Expo, LLC. Brooke, it's really wonderful to have you on the show today. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
Well, it's our thrill that you're here. We've had several conversations in preparing for this session, and I'm really glad that you're on the show today. So, Brooke, I always start out by asking people, what is the state of cannabis in your market? So please give us a sense of what's going on there.
So I'm actually in Reno, Nevada, and Nevada, the state of cannabis is very well received. We became medically legal for cannabis in 2000, and then we adopted recreational cannabis in 2016. Last year, we made record sales for 2021. The state of Nevada brought in over $1 billion in tax. The sales were $1 billion, and of that, in the tax sales, $145 went to public education. So sales are well. It's well received here. You can use it recreational or medically, and people are very happy with that decision when that bill passed in 2016. They're very pleased with the state doing that.
And are most of the cities and counties in Nevada, are they opting into the program, or do they have the opportunity to walk away from recreational medical cannabis? What's the state of that?
Yeah, they have to opt in, and we have the state, they left it down to, once the state adopted it, it got down to the counties and how the counties, if the counties wanted to adopt it or not, especially in the recreational part. There are some smaller counties in the state of Nevada that did not want to accept the recreational component. They accepted the medical component. So they left that down, they whittled it down to letting the counties decide. But the state overall for the licensing limited the licensing when it came to growers, dispensaries, and lab testing. But they have not opened up any more licensing since 2019 because how they distributed them in 2019, there was a lot of discrepancy. And so therefore, what is out on the market is there. If you want to get in this industry in the state of Nevada, you cannot go apply for a license right now, but what you could do is buy somebody else's license. But then if you do that, those licenses come at a much higher price than if you wait to go through the state. So it's kind of like what you want to do in the business, and do you want to wait for the state to reopen on that part, or do you want to buy somebody else's license to get into the industry?
Okay, but all in all, it sounds like the state of Nevada has made progress. People are accepting. And while I'm sure more iteration to come, there's been progress.
Extreme progress, yes, absolutely.
Okay. So, Brooke, one of the other questions I always ask is, how did you ever get into cannabis? I know you have a health and criminal justice background, and I always find the backgrounds of my guests to be really interesting. So please tell us about your background and about how that led to your current path.
Well, I will say this candidly, and I tell a lot of people this: if you would have asked me 10 years ago if I would have been in the cannabis industry, I probably would have laughed you out of a room because it was nowhere near on my radar of business or something that I had interest in at that time. I spent 20 years working in healthcare, and my educational background is criminal justice. And so I have a master's in criminal justice, a bachelor's in criminal justice, and then I also have an associate's in art. And when I was in healthcare, people used to say to me, I don't understand how you have a background with the criminal justice educational component and healthcare. And I reminded individuals that inmates also got healthcare. That's their right here in America. And so it was really the last 10 years, the company that I was with, we closed in March of 2018. That's when I decided to go do my master's. I was accepted into the master's program here at UNR. And as I was wrapping that up the summer of 2019, I went to my mentor and said, hey, I'm looking at buying a fingerprint drug testing franchise to match with my criminal justice master's. I had already been a business owner. I had a photography company for 10 years, and I was ready to fly on my own path. And my mentor said something to me that I was stunned. He said, you should open a cannabis testing lab. And I said, what are you talking about? I know nothing about cannabis. And he said, do the research and get back to me. And I'm like, I was left just like, wait, this is crazy. So July of 2019, I started doing a lot of research. I was graduating that year, December 7th, I graduated with my master's. A week later, I was in Las Vegas for the MJ Biz conference to meet my vendors for the lab, to see all the different components that I needed. And they had a women's night. And I thought, this is amazing. I want to network with women. What are they doing in the industry, right?
Right.
Here I am. I'm coming from this background. I'm sure there's other women from other backgrounds. Like, what are we all doing here? And they just put us in a room. And I thought, that's pretty strange because I had done a lot of trade shows for the last 10 years of my working career in healthcare. Yeah, I helped bring a product to market, a telehealth kiosk. And I was ready for a keynote speaker and just like certain things. And I was like, this is just bizarre. So we went on family vacay about a week later for Christmas, and I had made a determination I would spend a couple $1,000s to go to a couple expos for women in cannabis. And I started doing research, and there was nothing. I couldn't find anything. So I called my mentor and I said, how would you feel about me launching the lab and also an expo for women in the cannabis industry? And he said to me, there's nothing in that market. And I said, no. And he goes, oh my gosh, you have to do it. You have to do both. And so January of 2020 is when I launched the Women in Cannabis Expo and also my lab. Started getting everything together, signed my hotel contract for my event that year. And then we had COVID, which was lovely.
COVID, yes. I seem to remember that, yes.
Just let's throw some more challenges already on an industry that you already get plenty of challenges enough. Let's just throw COVID in there. So I continued to promote for both. It wasn't until about a month before my event was scheduled that year, August of 2020, that the hotel called and said that I could not have my event because of COVID. And I said, well, why don't we just move it to 2021? Because I think that gives everybody more time. And of course, people were really willing to work with other individual companies at that time because of COVID and understanding there were some different elements going on. And so we moved the event to then. And what I can say is that when we had our first event, it was so well received. That's why we're hosting 4 this year. But I can also say that I still don't have my lab. I still don't have my lab. I have the building for it. I don't have the lab because they haven't opened up the licensing since 2019. Now, like what I mentioned earlier, I can go buy somebody else's license if I want to, but there's cost of licenses for $1 million. And labs already are quite expensive to fund. It costs about $2 to $2.5 million. So I'm not really keen on taking the idea of taking on another $1 million of debt. So the lab at this point, everything has just been on hold. It's just there waiting. And once the state does open up licensing, me and my investors, we will revisit to see if that is a viable solution at that time, to see if we want to pursue that. But I do have this building. And so being the entrepreneur that I am with the Expo, I have launched 2 other companies this year that are in pieces of working together for e-commerce. And the e-commerce are really there for women who are like me. They're business professional. They don't want to bring bong. They want pink and they want girly. And so it's been exciting because I've been able to springboard off just not only having my expo, but seeing there's other things that haven't been created for this industry. And I think that's one of the things that drives me in this business is it makes it so much excitement for me is that there's so many companies that haven't been developed yet. So many ideas that haven't been developed yet. So I like that part of the industry very well. But yes, definitely diverse background with healthcare and criminal justice. But I will say this, people ask me a lot of times when I was in my master's program, when I did my undergrad, I had people say, I bet they tell you to arrest people or keep them in prison for cannabis. And I said, no, they actually teach people the opposite. It is quadrupled our inmate rates. And that rate falls in on our taxpayer dollars for healthcare, for food, for clothing, for housing them. And they've actually taught the opposite, that it never should have happened. And so people are always kind of taken back by that too, because they kind of have this idea in their mind that if you have a degree in that, they're probably pushing that propaganda of arresting people. And I said, no, it's actually the opposite. So it's been a whirlwind with my background, and then to combine a bunch of things that I've done with the educational component.
Right. So, Brooke, can you tell us just briefly a little bit about these two other businesses?
Yes, I can. So the two other companies that I have launched that I'm picking away at on the side because I'm so busy with the expos, they're two e-commerce. One is called Legally Blonde and Blunt. I've been referred to as the legally blonde of the cannabis world, and I will gracefully take that compliment. I love Reese Witherspoon. I love that movie. People didn't see me coming, and I showed up, and I kind of wow them, and they're like, "Oh, she's really educated. Oh, wow!" And so I love it. But I can tell you that e-commerce is really geared towards women. Pink, girly, glitter, accessories, clothing, pipes, all of that stuff is on the e-commerce. Clothing that I've designed, yoga wear I've designed, bags I've designed, really playing off all of the girly components. The second one I developed is called Neon Night Apparel, and that's really for both men and women, but it's very bright, bold colors. Kind of gives a new, fresh look to, I think there's a misconception of individuals in this industry, the hippie look, the persona of being lazy. And so that apparel and accessory line is very just bold colors, but done in a different way for men and women.
Very, very exciting. And you're actively selling on both?
I am actively selling on one. I'm getting ready to send some emails out today and tomorrow as far as the other one. And then my building, my warehouse is going to be full with products. So I've been able to flip the switch on the situation at hand of not having a lab and having this big building, but now I'm able to fill it with products and have my e-commerce and also do my expos, but then make the space work for me that I'm in.
All right. Well, be sure to send us links to those companies as well so we can put them in the show notes.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So let's talk about the Women's Expo. This is a big idea. And please tell us how they work, what you focus on, what's your organizing principle when you put them out there. What is it you're trying to achieve, and how does it happen?
So the Women in Cannabis Expo, like I mentioned, was created when I saw that there was nothing there. And the main objective and goal is to get women into the industry, to help women in the industry. We know that this industry is dominated by males, roughly 87% is dominated by males. Women have been leaving this industry. They're not making the same pay. They're having high burnout rates. And so we want to continue to support women who are in this business or in this industry or who want to go into this industry. But we also realize that that number falls off even more significantly if you're a minority or a person with a disability. And so we're really trying to shed light on, I would say, embracing and sharing what other women are doing in the business. So we do that by having speakers, sponsors, exhibitors, and then we do donation sponsors. And a lot of the women-owned companies that work with us love doing a donation sponsor because it gives them a way for us to double market for them because we're marketing what they're giving us and then we're marketing them as a speaker. But we really love having women who are dynamic in the industry, who are making waves for themselves and making a way for other women. We love to hear how they're standing out and what they're doing. And for us, we just realized that the first show was such a hit that we needed to have it around the United States this year. The issue has been people keep asking the question, they want a chapter. When it comes to women in this business, one of the biggest things that we struggle with is raising money, getting capital, going to investors. They want the widgets before, they want to know how many widgets you sold before they give you the money, but you can't do the widgets without getting the money to make
right.
It's a conundrum. And so, having a chapter would be very expensive and it's not necessarily cost effective. And so what we realized is that hosting different shows around the United States would give opportunities to different groups of women to come together in those outer lining areas or that inner city area. So our first show is coming up May 26th in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And we're very excited for that because they just adopted cannabis into law. And so we're hoping to really help inspire women around in that area who are hoping to go into the business. Like, we're hoping to provide them networking connections, give them a meaningful day, a very powerful day. We also do awards and scholarships and raffle prizes. And so we're very excited about that. And then next month, it's the end of June, we have two big shows back to back. We will be in Denver, Colorado. And then we're going to break for summer because it's a lot to host these big events. And then we'll come back September, we'll have an event in Las Vegas. And then in October, we're going to have one in San Francisco. And our numbers are looking quite well for this year. And so I think the fit is necessarily not having chapters, but maybe moving the show around to different bigger cities where it brings the people together, where they're able to network and make some meaningful connections.
That sounds really wonderful. How many people are you anticipating in each show?
The average numbers, our first show we had about 300. We're looking at anywhere from 200 to 500. We're going to max out at vendor spaces at 50 vendors per show. And then sponsors, we don't necessarily have a max number of sponsors. We will accept them all throughout the year. And then for ticket sales, I'm maxing them out at 500 per show.
Okay, and what do the tickets go for generally?
They're $115 for the day, and so that includes the entire day of the expo and the speakers. And then there's a break. Everything ends at 5 o'clock. There's a break for an hour, and then we go into what we call our networking mixer, where we give out awards that people that were online nominated, and then they were online voted. And then we give out panel awards, and then we go into the raffle prizes and scholarships.
Yeah. So, Brooke, what's your big dream for this company over the next 4 or 5 years? What do you hope that you'll be able to accomplish?
This company for me, what I realized this past year after having the first show is that this whole vision of what I have is 10 times bigger than me. And so I've already been having conversations with other bigger companies, because I think at the end of the day, we all have been coming to the same conclusion. We need more women in the industry. We need more minorities in the industry. We need those with disabilities who want to come into the industry. But I can't, as a one woman, I can't do it all. And so the position of where I see the company going is that I see this company becoming a very, very ginormous company. And we are looking at actually having conversations with other big companies to see how we might see if we can marry them together to keep the growth and the momentum going.
Wonderful. All right, so Brooke, as we close out our show today, are there anything else that you'd like to share about your experience in cannabis or about your experience with power? I mean, we wrote a book about power, Michael, Ashley, and I always want to ask people about what their experience is. I just had a conversation yesterday with somebody who, we had a very heartfelt conversation about power and how it makes them nervous and how power is just so laden with uncertainty and confusion and fear. So how do you get over your uncertainty, confusion, and fear and assert your power?
I would say, for me, I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit, and to take that leap to say, okay, I'm going to do this on my own, I'm going to be the first to create this, you always have that in the back of your mind. What if I fail? What if I don't succeed? And the thing that I remind myself daily is, if you do fail, it's not a fail. It's never a failure. There's always a lesson to be learned. And what I've learned is that you will come up against many, many, many challenges, and it's all about how you handle those challenges professionally, how you handle those challenges, realizing them. I think for women especially, men are very linear thinkers. They make a decision, they do it. Women, we are very circular thinkers. We make a decision, we backtrack, we go back. Did I make the right decision? Did I not? And I've really had to hone in on me as a person and say, okay, I've made this decision. I need to stick with it. I'm the business owner. Let's see how it works. If it doesn't work, that's okay. Let's take the lesson from it and apply those things that were not working and see what we need to figure out.
Right.
And so it is hard. The position of power, it's scary. People think, oh, you're your own entrepreneur. This is so great. And it's like, yeah, but if I fail, I'm out money. Investors are out money. And so for me, I always try to look at the lesson, but I also don't believe in failure. I just don't. It's one of the things that I've adopted in my life. For me, it's always, there's nothing that I can't do. You just might have to go different ways of doing it. The hardest part has been raising money, being accepted in, because at the end of the day, like I said, it's very male dominated. But women, their voices have been very loud and clear that this has needed to happen for a long time. And I get complimented and commended every day from women saying, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for doing this for us.
Wonderful. Well, Brooke, I want to thank you very much for doing this for us and for all of your. Is that your dog in the background?
Sarah,
I always love candid dog shots in the videos. It's all great. What's your dog's name?
This is Sarah, my golden retriever.
Oh, that's so sweet. So let me say thank you very much for being on the show. Really good luck with your all your efforts. They're very important and very much needed. And we look forward to seeing you again.
And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, they can Google.
Yes, please. That's absolutely.
Yes.
Please let us know.
They can look up Women in Cannabis Expo. They can Google it. We're the first one to pop up because we're the only show out there doing what we do. They can reach us at 775-800-1414. That's our main office line. And they can email us at womeninCannabisExpo@yahoo.com.
Wonderful. And do you have any social handles you want to let people know about?
They can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And again, all they have to do is type in Women in Cannabis Expo and we pop up.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you. Thank you very, very much for all that. And we will talk to you soon.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Take care.